Hello there, my name's Ellie and I'm a chronic pain specialist. And today I just wanted to talk to you about sleep. So a little while ago, I read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I would thoroughly recommend it if you haven't come across it or you haven't read it already. And it's a really interesting book. And the concepts that he puts forward in the book are really not just about good sleep behavior and that kind of thing, although that is addressed as well, but it's actually, he goes really in depth as to the reasons why we sleep and the process that happens while we're asleep. And what I found really kind of quite shocking and illuminating was the fact that he links various health conditions, well, pretty much all health conditions, back to a lack of adequate sleep. So things like Alzheimer's and dementia. He took Margaret Thatcher as an example, saying, through her she was quite famous for saying that she only slept for 5 hours a night. So he takes that as an example of how something like that earlier in life has some scientific evidence to show that later in life you'll be more prone to conditions such as dementia and Alzheimer's. He also talks about cancer and all conditions that you can think of basically can be traced back to a lack of sleep, certainly not necessarily as the cause, but as a contributing factor. And, when you think about it on a kind of bigger global level, it does make sense in that whilst we're in deep sleep, that's the body's time to really repair and to rejuvenate and to really kind of restore any of the damage that's been done and really just maintain that homeostasis. So it really kind of made a lot of sense to me that if we're not getting this adequate sleep, how we can be prone to more serious conditions. So obviously in my field of work, then I'm always relating this back to pain, and in particular things like headaches, jaw pain and that kind of thing. And I notice that in my clients that often their sleep patterns can really be relative to the amount of pain that they're experiencing, and then vice versa. When they're in a lot of pain, then they're not sleeping as well. So it's always been a really interesting topic for me. And I think even if we just come away from what we might be experiencing in terms of pain and discomfort and think really globally on a body-wide scale, then this just feels like a really important area of life to address. So I just thought I'd take you through a couple of tips that I often offer out to my clients in terms of sleep, and they're things that have personally worked for me in the past, and things that some of them I still implement now. So I mean, the first one is obviously sleep hygiene, and you've probably come across a lot of talk about this because it's been in the press and things like that over the last couple of years about how important sleep hygiene is. I'm struggling to remember where I first come across the idea of really reducing lighting in the evening so that your body starts to get ready for the evening and get ready for sleep. Because like I've said before when we've spoken about other subjects, when you trace this back to our genetics and our background as humans, then it would be dark and we'd go to bed, you know, whereas now we can obviously extend that time to whenever we want to by the use of lighting. And so I think it always makes sense to look back on the way that, you know, the way that we've evolved, really, and what we've evolved from. And the more we can bring ourselves back into those patterns, then generally the better our health is going to be. So yeah, so although it's impossible really in this culture that we live in to be kind of going to bed at 6 o'clock, we can try and incorporate and sort of hack really some of those ideas into our modern day life. So really reducing lighting, and obviously screens, which is a really big one in the lead up to going to bed, is really important. So things like replacing a sort of later TV show with reading a book, or listening to something, or something that's just not on a screen, basically, I think can have huge benefits for the effects of sleep. I mean, you can take this really far and kind of work on blacking out as much outdoor light as you can. You know, you could just be living by candlelight in the evening and not doing very much at all. But when we take it to the extreme, it can often be really difficult to actually maintain. So quite a happy balance, I would say, is just replacing the last half an hour before you go to bed with something that is low lighting and that doesn't involve looking at a screen. And the second thing that I would often suggest to clients, which I think is a really kind of quite easy thing to implement and really beneficial, is in the mornings to really take in that first light, because that can really help with melatonin production. So that's kind of like your body clock. Like in the morning, if you can be exposed to sunlight, although you can see it's going in and out as I'm talking here, but you know, often, certainly in the UK, we don't have days of bright sunlight all of the time. But even just being outdoors, you know, there is obviously a degree of sunlight even through thick cloud. As much as you can without sunscreen, but you know, depending on the weather or the temperature, you may or may not be able to do that. And just really allowing that sunlight to be on your skin just at sunrise time. So again, you know, you have to really adapt it to your own lifestyle. But if you can get out just for 10 minutes early in the morning, either for a walk or somehow to be outside, then this can have huge benefits on your body clock. So you'll start off in the morning and your body, your internal systems know that it's morning, and then because they feel that by feeling that sunlight on the skin, and then that can really sort of act as a reset for your melatonin levels, which can then actually start to increase later on in the day and then lead you up towards a healthier sleep and the ability to get to sleep. So really that's the two things that I wanted to suggest, was two things that are just easy to implement, because I think, you know, we can go too far with a long list of a big sleep hygiene routine, but just that walk first thing in the morning and cutting out screens at least half an hour before you go into bed and really dimming the lights. So if you've tried those already, then do let me know the effects, let me know your thoughts on this. If you notice a correlation between sleep and pain, I'm always really interested to hear about that. So do get in touch and let me know.